Yeah.
Please introduce yourself and share what building bridges means to you.
Good morning, and thank you so much, Lynette, for inviting me. I'm truly honored to be here, and wonderful to meet you, Gabby, as well. And thank you for the audience, Molly, Sonal, and Nori for being here as well. So I'm an artist, I'm a dancer, but originally, like people start in life, I'm a food science and engineering technology major from Purdue, worked in the pet food industry, worked in the consumer product, and got into consumer product testing and market research, which I truly love. But my passion, or my from young age, we've always danced. We've been creatives, in different various areas, like especially in art and music a little bit. But the building bridges and the whole, I call myself a connector as well, and I like to connect through arts and dance. That's my motto. Like, give me opportunities to share my culture, and I can share it through the arts and dance. And I think people are more receptive, and it's easier to walk up to me if I'm danced in my or dressed in my costume, or traditional clothing, and ask questions, because there's a lot of curiosity, and some curiosities, when they're not answered, lead to misunderstandings, which lead to a lot of, unfortunately, ugliness from that misinformation. But I think if we kind of step up, show up, and share who we are, people feel comfortable and kind of get to know each other, and we're all the same at the end of the day.
Well, you ended that with a statement that really touched my heart. In that very moment, we're all the same at the end of the day. And that's something that is so amazing to me, because I feel like if we all did a DNA test, we would all be amazed to find that we're not just one thing. No one is just one thing. So it amazes me. I honestly am genuinely floored that people still have prejudice and biases and judgments about other cultures, when they probably have those cultures and ethnicities and races running through their veins.
Yeah, I use this line all the time. I said, we learn in first grade, what our wants and what our needs are. And as humans, we need the same thing. We all need food, water, shelter, and we need a little extra. We need love. That's it. And we consume the same 5 things. We're all going to eat fats, carbohydrates, proteins, water, and trace minerals. None of us can say we survived on concrete, or that we ate asphalt or tree bark for a year. We can't do it. We need the same thing, whether it's chicken or chickpeas. Your body recognizes it as protein. So we need the same. We're basically made the same way. It's just very superficial, this, tiny amount, surface level, whether it's skin color or hair color or background. And why we differentiate based on that is still insane. It's crazy, but it's happening. And I think we just need to keep bringing that forward and kind of chug along and, hold on to our differences and uniqueness from our backgrounds, but at the same time appreciate it and celebrate it, versus having to kind of shy away from it.
Gabby, did you have something to add? I see you're ready.
Yes, one of the things that I really appreciate to your words, Shafali, is how we can connect with the basic things that all of us need, the basic things to connect with other people, and sometimes we forgot about the basics. So it's really important to connect with the basic things, especially with purpose and love. Why we are here, why we can connect with other people, why we are doing something. And as a part of my background is an engineering and agriculture, and when Shafali mentioned that the food, it's the basic things that sometimes we forgot about that. And it's the same things that we forgot about our emotions, our as a human beings. What is the special skills we can develop to connect with other people and build these bridges? So I think this is really important, to connect with the basic things to move to the bigger ones.
And so what do you, and this is an open conversation at this point, it's free flowing, and so feel free, either of you, to open your mic when you want to jump in, or if your background is really quiet, you can leave your mic open. That's fine as well. What do you think or believe is what's the answer? What specifically? Let's do this. How about if you share a specific tip or an action that someone can take to understand cultural diversity, to improve their cultural intelligence, to better communicate with someone that is different from who they are?
That's a great question. And I think it starts with how you approach newness, differentness, or even just recognizing like, hey, that's a great necklace, or did you travel somewhere, or did you, are you celebrating something special this weekend, or tell me more about it. I think we kind of like, when we were kids, we were talking about this with a friend, like growing up in the Midwest in Chicago, in the 70s and 80s, you weren't, to be different was hard. So you tried to, like the original way of saying it, like America was a melting pot. So you were kind of forced, like you wanted to wear the jeans that everybody else was wearing. You wanted to wear the cool polo that everybody was wearing. You want to get your hair done the same way because you wanted to fit in. Now I try to stand out. I wear all my wonderful jewelry. I love to wear my traditional clothing out. I love to, accentuate and do my hair differently. So I think we need to, when we see something, we need appreciate it, acknowledge it, and learn more about it. And that's where the conversation starts, right? And then people get, oh, let me share something with you, or let me, share some, I bought some food from home. Do you want to try my food? Where back in the day, we were embarrassed to take, traditional home cooked meals to lunch because we don't want to stand out. We don't want to be different. So I think we need to, appreciate it, accept it, and just acknowledge it. And people feel like, oh, let me tell you more. I think that's where it's a good start.
Gabby?
Yes, thank you. The question about what is specific tip or action we can do for improve this communication and doing in the most effective way between cultures is, I think for me, is be empathetic, because when we are when we saw the people in front of us, especially remember when we communicate everything with a purpose and love, there are no chance to fail, and be really grateful with the option and the opportunity we have to connect with other people, because sometimes we tag people for different reasons. So if we remove tags and just connect with the people for human beings, we are just human beings, and then with different cultures, with different backgrounds, with different options, with different opportunities or circumstances, but at the end we can develop the skills to learn how can we connect with other people. We can communicate in an assertive way, and be effective with our communication, because we are just communicate and improving our culture with the option we have to connect with other people. And when we are open to learn from other cultures, from other people around the world, that is a beautiful option to grow as a person, to grow as a business owners, or to grow as a professionals. So that is for me is an opportunity to grow in all the ways.
I love that. I agree with that. Absolutely. And so when we think about companies, when we think about businesses, and we think about the leaders of those companies, they have employees, staff, teams. What would you recommend to them? How can they build this cultural intelligence amongst their team members? Do you have any thoughts or experiences that you can share with us, both of you, on this?
Yeah, it comes back to that, like recognizing the differences versus forcing everybody just to celebrate or just to acknowledge the same thing. So I appreciate what a lot of companies doing, like with Asian American Heritage Month, with the Latin festivals, the African American Heritage Month. So it's nice to be able to share, and people get excited to come in and being able to demonstrate who they are and tell people about their background.
Yeah, those were always fun in school, right? When you had, what did they call it? History Month, or what did they call it? When they would let the parents of different cultures come in and share.
Yeah, that was much. I did that for my kids, like the Multicultural Day and International Week. And then have different countries, different people from different countries come in and share about their background.
Yeah, and I used to love that because I thought it was so interesting. I grew up in New York City, the melting pot of all melting pots. And so I was used to seeing all of this culture around me all the time, but I didn't know anything about the actual nuances of other people's culture. So I loved being able to taste the different food that they would bring, and it was amazing. Hi, Richard. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you being here. So, Gabby, what do you think about that question?
About the experiences I have, it's really, for me, it's really important to rescue from these things how the people can talk in just one language when they are together, because we are trying to find a way to communicate in the different cultures with different languages. And Spanish is sometimes it's fun because in different countries the same word means different things. So that is one of the things that we are learning to share with the people, because sometimes in one country some things it's different for other people. And yesterday we had an event here in Charlotte for sharing some new rules, or what is the proposal the government has for impact the life for the immigrant people here in the United States. And it was great because for me, I feel so grateful to see how the people trying to all the time to find a way to help others, no matter what is the nationality, or what is the, if somebody came from India, or if somebody came from Asia or Latin American. At the end, the real effort for find a way to build a different world with to impact people, that is the most beautiful experience I'm living when I'm going to the events here, and not just here, because I have the opportunity to stay in another events. So I rescue that how can the people trying to find one purpose to connect with others and help to be involved in no matter what is the culture they are coming.
Yeah, that is nice when people come together. I think like people from different backgrounds tend to relate to each other quicker because we're like, hey,
Yes.
we're different, so we stick together.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. That's totally true. Yes.
Right. So that's great, and
that's amazing. It's amazing.
it is. Yeah.
So I know that all of us are from, or each of us are from different cultures, different backgrounds, and with each culture comes stereotypes and misunderstandings, misrepresentations, all of those kinds of things. I would love for you to share, what is one stereotype that is placed on your culture that simply isn't true?
Wow, that's another good question. And there's quite a few, but
or share a few, because I mean, we're
share
here.
a couple. Some of it is, it's almost reverse on us, like the expectation that you're Asian, you got to be smart, or you got to be, the expectation that you're gonna do better in school because you're Indian or you're Asian Indian. That's one of them. But many people know the story, like when America started allowing immigrants from India to come to America, they were selected by their education. So you had to have a certain level of education and a certain types, like they preferred the engineers and the doctors and the nurses. So the people that tended to come were highly educated. So we that's how the majority ended up being that way. But not everybody is in that same boat. So we can't put that same pressure on our kids and the same expectations. And then some of the stereotypical, like, again, negativity towards like our religion, not knowing, it's like, oh, do you guys worship cows, or are you snake charmers, or those types of things. So yeah, I try to address it when I talk about, my culture, through dance and stuff. I go, yeah, we don't like worship the cows, but we highly respect them as animals. And if we respect those animals, then it kind of goes across the board, right? And we respect all animals. And that's where the idea of comes into our faith. So those are two I can share.
Gabby?
Yes, this is a question that is like, even I had an experience when I came here I came here to 8 years ago, and when I came here, somebody told me that I need to forget about everything I know and everything I am, because here the only option I have is maybe cleaning houses or babysitting, because there are no option for me here. So that is one of the really hard things I listen. And for many people who's coming here, sometimes it's hard to connect with this kind of things. And that's one of the things that when we came and I said, oh my God, what is happening here? And it's even our our community tags sometimes the other people for different reasons. And when we have the opportunity to open doors for others, to say you can talk about different things, you can give to the other people opportunities to share what they are doing in their own countries, no matter what is the background. We have the option to create other opportunities, even create our circumstances, because sometimes we have different options to get jobs in different positions, or different communities, or different levels to do something different. But when we remove the tax, no matter what, and we have the option to be open to create a different perspective for the people who is coming, and for the people who is around of us. And we have to, and I learned to be really selective, to listen about the people who is with different experiences, because that person maybe gave me his experience or her experience, but it's not have to determine my experience or my decisions or my purpose or my way to do something, some kind of thing. So I think that is one of the really hard things that I am working, and we are working in the community to change that mindset and the people who is coming from our countries.
I love that. And as an African American person, sadly, we have a lot of stereotypes and judgments. And what's interesting from my perspective is that we have one set of stereotypes from people outside of the United States, and then we have a whole nother set of stereotypes from people inside of the United States. So we have a double whammy going on. And I think one of the most concerning stereotypes for me is that we are all criminals, or, we are all up to no good, or that we are all uneducated, or, that those all fall into the same pot of stereotypes and judgments, to the point of walking down the street, especially if you're a black male in the United States, and people crossing the street because they assume that you are going to rob them. And those kinds of things are very challenging to live with every single day. I know for myself because of that stereotype of us being uneducated, I felt the need to prove that that was not true. Sadly, I wasn't necessarily doing it because I desired to get an extensive education in the beginning of my journey, but I started out in a white male dominated industry of operations. Being the best at what I did didn't matter. And so I felt like education was going to change things for me. I proceeded to do that by obtaining 2 master's degrees, a PhD, a law degree, and a doctorate. And
Wow.
I realized along the way that, thank you, I realized along the way, I thought that it was the stereotype of us being uneducated that was the problem, when it really all along was the color of my skin. And that's part of what led me to Intercultural Voices. And so I share that because I would now like to know, based on the stereotypes that you knew existed, what did you do to try to counteract those stereotypes, and then perhaps realize that that was not the real problem, or that wasn't the best course of action?
Do you mean for us, or do you mean like for other people?
For you personally, your personal journey.
So again, I was born and raised here. So some of the things about my culture and my religion, I didn't even know. Like, my parents shared as much as they possibly could. They exposed us, right? But this was the 70s. They just couldn't say, like, well, can you just Google it and you'll find out the answer, right? And having the right books or having someone to explain it properly. So that was a process in itself to understand. Like, we all probably seen we have the dot in the forehead sometimes. And, I had to learn, like, what does it mean? Why do we wear it? What is the significance of it? What's the background story for it, to be able to explain it better? So those were part of the steps, is understanding what it was, understanding what other people thought it was for, and then being a part, again, being in places and spaces and allowing for those conversations to happen. And that's the other component of this, right? Like, I can have this knowledge, but if I'm not out there sharing it, or if I'm not within a community that needs to know this information. And there's also that other aspect, well, I don't feel comfortable with these people, they seem racist, so I'm not going to hang out with them. I take the other approach now. That was my approach earlier. It's like, oh, let me step away, or kind of, remove myself. Now I feel like, no, I need to be in these rooms because they need to hear my voice. They need to know more about who I am. They'd be able to walk up to me and be curious and ask, like, oh, what does that mean? Why do you guys do this? I'm like, oh, I'm so glad you feel comfortable. Let me, tell you more. But based on what I know. And if I don't know, we can figure this out together. We can ask somebody else about this. But the fact that you're curious and you sincerely want to know is a good step. You know what I'm saying? Like, versus that, like, that not knowing or that ignorance leads to kind of ugliness or hatred. So I think those are where I kind of go. But also I was, when you're 8 and someone doesn't know, and I'm, 50 plus, so it's a different, part of my life, and the knowledge is also there, because, like I said, when I was a kid, we had gone to a wedding, came back to school, and I still had the residual of the henna that I had gotten done on my hands, and after a few days it fades and it becomes like more of an orangey red color versus that nice intense maroon color. And when I went back to school on Monday, the girls next to me are like, ew, Shafali, what's that on your hand? And I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to explain it. I don't know how to say, oh my gosh, it's this beautiful, ceremony that we do, and it's made of this crushed henna leaves, and we apply it, and we get this intense color, and it's, to celebrate this wedding. And I didn't know those words, but I had to learn. And I think that's part of the process too, is learning what it is and then trying to explain it, and hopefully being in places where people can listen and hopefully understand what's being said. I'm done.
Dr. Lynette, could you please repeat for me again what is it?
Absolutely. The question is really just around knowing the stereotypes and the judgments that had been placed on your culture. what did you do to try to overcome them as you were growing up, throughout your life? And were those beneficial to you, or did you realize that you wasted time or energy or effort on something that didn't matter?
Perfect. Yes, and I was listening about follow all the experiences, and that's really great to have this opportunity. So, the first things that we sometimes and the people who's coming, in my case, it was the language. When I came here, I didn't know nothing in English, or maybe a couple of words that maybe I listened some couple of times, and it was a challenge when we are around another people who is just talking, and I just maybe listen something sounds around me, and I'm trying to understand the corporal language, and I'm trying to be in. And for me, it was great, and for me, it's not wasting time, because share our cultures and share and grow in different ways is like an opportunity to share the purpose too. And we when we really know who we are, and what is the reason why we want to do something, that is the best way to start to do something different. And then all the barriers there are even in our own countries, and then it's not when we are in from one people to other, there are differences. So it's really important to don't using these tags to stop to believe, to stop to do something, to stop to create opportunities for us and for others, because we have the power to change the things. We have the power to believe in different things, and we are here for a reason, for a purpose, and that is one of the things that we can do to impact lives. And if we have barriers, that is a really good option to find a way to jump or move for one side, or find a way to overcome in different ways, because there are for me, all the barriers are opportunities to grow, are opportunities to find a way to do something different. And it's not an option to say no, it is an option to, and one of the things that I really like to say is like, when something is no, can be an on in another time. It's an opportunity. Maybe in this time, something it happens now is no, but in another time, in another circumstances, or with other people, is an on, it's an opportunity. So if we create spaces to find a way to connect with others, and these obstacles or these barriers we have, maybe it's a challenge for us to find a way to do something different, but it's a really great opportunity to being better and better and better, and continue growing. And at the end, there are a quote from Baden Powell, and he's leading the Scout movement around the world, and he said, and we are here to leave this world better than unfounded. So we have that option to leave this world better, and for that, maybe there are a lot of obstacles, but there are a lot of opportunities to just jump and do something that is not an obstacle anymore.
Yeah, that's true. That is our only job, is to leave this place better, or
yes.
in a positive way.
Yeah, totally in the positive way.
Yeah.
I love that so much. I talk a lot about legacy, and one of my mantras is live the legacy you want to leave. Because
yes, that's a great way to say it.
So many people are thinking about the legacy that they want to leave, and it's money or it's land, and it's going to be something that happens after they die. But number one, they aren't realizing that everything that they're doing today is the legacy. It's the seed. It's what their children and grandchildren and friends and family see them doing, how they see them living, how they see them leading, how they see them loving. Those are all a legacy. But the other side to that is that we need to live. We need to love our life. We need to be happy. We need to be healthy. It cannot all be about money. And so that's what really comes to mind for me as I listen to the things that you both just shared. And it's a great segue to a question that I was thinking about a moment ago, which is, where do you see cultural equity going from here? Like, what do you think is the future of cultural equity and making this a place that's better now and not just better after we're gone? Anyone?
That's Lynette. That's again another. It's one of those things that you think about. Like for example, I don't know if I consider myself second generation or how to define. Like, I was born and raised here, right? So when people see me, they're like, "Hey, you must be Indian." But when I open my mouth, like, "Oh, but you sound quote American." I've gotten that. I've had an event. We were at a school a few years ago, and there was 5 of us, Indian moms had come in, and we were going to talk about different aspects of India. And then to wrap it up at the end, I said, "Hey guys, we're going to push our chairs back, and we're going to start this, rangoli, which is like this art that we do on the floor with grains and colored rice." And I said, "If anybody has questions, let me know." And this 4th grader, shot her hand up and immediately was like, "Ma'am, you speak really good English." And I was like, I chuckled for a second, and then I said, "Oh," I go, "Wait, why do you think that is?" She's like, "Oh, you must practice a lot." And I said, "Well, that's a good perspective." Because the other 4 ladies that were with me they had come from India in the last 10, 15, 20 years. So they still, had the Indian accents, with their English. And so I said, "Well, actually, no, for them, English is their second language. And for me, I was born and raised in America. So English is my first language." And, the 4th grader kind of lost me at first, second language. But it was interesting to see because she based it just on the superficial part of me. I said, "But, I go, I'm an American. I could become president one day if I decided to run for president." But I think there's so that's that point that you're saying, like, we want to understand each other, and I want to be a part of that conversation and to be explain who we are. But at the same time, we're all from the same country. We're all from here, and we need to kind of be unique, but yet still identify together, if that makes sense. Because I think we're too busy pointing out differences and not understanding that we're very similar. But also, I don't want to forget our differences, or uniqueness, I want to say. And that's where I'm hoping we just continue celebrating each other. When I see more and more holidays, I was like, "Oh, that's great." And, on our calendar, when we grew up, we didn't have, like, Diwali marked. We didn't have, like, Eid marked. We didn't have these, even today I have friends ask me, "Can you explain to me what Juneteenth is?" And it's come up in the last 3, 4, 5 years, right? Relatively a newer, but it was something that was there. But it's nice to know the backstories, and that's what we're learning about. And I think once we understand more of the origination or where these, ideas have come in, then I think it'll be easier for people to continue to, hold on to our cultural uniqueness, but at the same time, move forward together. And I am complete.
That's great. That's great. And for sure, I see the future cultural equity as a dream come true, because we are working on that. We are working together, and when we know our roots and when we can share with respect to others what is the richness we have with our cultures, and we can find the same opportunities no matter what for different people. But as I mentioned it before, when we know who we are, that is a part of the way we can rescue in the middle of the everything. So the things that we can do to find equity is don't talk people. This is just look at the people as human beings and look how can we definitely we can do something and find the spaces to share opportunities, to share resources, and especially guiding other people to connect no matter what. And because sometimes the people is afraid to expose their culture, or sometimes we say, okay, I have accent, yes, so for sure, I think I'm learning English. I'm still learning English, because when I came here, even I didn't know nothing, and now I'm talking with different people and connecting with people, because I know that I will find a way to share the culture, to share the opportunities. It's the same for everyone. We need to get advantage to all the resources we have to connect and to open doors for other people. And when we are in the community, one of the things that we need to say and tell the people is we have opportunities, we have resources, we have different cultures, but at the same time we have the option to create one world no matter what happened. And then when we are in the meetings, we are in the different I don't know events, and when we are going, well, we have the option to see different options to share in the same way for all the people. But at the same time, for me, it's really important to be proud about our roots, our culture, our foundation, because that is the reason why we are doing something in this world. So it's really important to know that, and especially when we know that the world is growing, and we are connected in different countries, we are connected in different cities or states, and at the same time we can translate in another languages. So the equity for the cultures is every day is an option to find a way to find this equity with the different resources we have, especially with the technology. It's a really good opportunity. So I definitely see the future in a really, really dream come true.
Yeah, very well said. And also, she's right with the point that you made about you got to know where you're coming from, and then you know where you're going. That's one of my base philosophies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always say start from the end and work backwards. So absolutely love that. No, you do really have to know where you're going in order to get there. It's like getting in the car, going someplace for the first time, and not using a GPS to tell you turn by turn directions. You may wind up anywhere. Hi, Trisetta. Thank you so much for stopping by and spending some time with us today. We are talking about building bridges in a multicultural world, and this is such a big conversation, and in future LinkedIn Audio Lives, we will really be digging deeper into smaller pieces of InterCultural. Now, I have a question, and this is sort of interesting. I want to pose this, and I'm also going to say, if there's anyone in the audience that is interested in joining this conversation with us on stage, you have a question for us, you have a story you want to share, you want to tell us something about your culture, please raise your hand. This is the time to do that, and I will be preparing to invite people to come up and spend some direct live one-on-one time with us. But here's the question for conversation. There's a difference between multicultural, intercultural, cross-cultural, and transcultural. We had a very intentional reason for choosing intercultural voices for this brand. I would love to know if either of you have a perspective a thought and experience on either of the four terminologies. So I'm going to repeat my list again because I know that was a long one. Multicultural, intercultural, cross-cultural, and transcultural.
You probably have to help me define what intercultural versus transcultural means.
Well, that was sort of the conversation. Is that
Okay.
I'm curious to see if you have a perspective on any of those four words.
I'm assuming multicultural was still like just different cultures in, everybody's uniqueness. And the intercultural or cross-cultural to me would be the sharing across cultures to bring together, where it's, I have my idea and you have your idea, and like, oh, we can make this better, or we can, share our experiences and then grow from there. I'm not sure.
And Gabby, have you had any experiences with any of those words?
Yes, I have a couple of experiences with the multicultural and one of the things is the cross-cultural, when the people start to find the different differences with the different cultural backgrounds to communicate, but in the different ways. And so it's like crossing one another, the different ways to cross. And the multicultural is, I have an experience with the different people in the college. They are coming from different countries, and we are creating one culture from different cultures. And the intercultural, one of the things that I really can rescue from this is that this is people from different cultures, but they are maintaining their own essence. So that is one of the things that that is really important to rescue. And the transcultural, that is one of the things that I don't know if I'm correct, but it's like, how can we transform through the cultural way? So I think that is my point of view, and the experiences I have with the different point of views in the culture. So that's it.
Yeah, it's very interesting to me because I was very familiar with the phrase multicultural for a very long time. As a matter of fact, this brand originally started in 2020, and it was called Multiculturalism Today. That's the original name of this brand. And I understood multicultural. That made sense to me. But just like with so many other things in the English language, words change meanings, and then things start to morph into babies and grandchildren, and then we have all of these different versions of. So I was very interested to learn that there are all of these other phrases, and it wasn't intended to put either of you on the spot. I was really curious to see if anyone else was using or was aware of all of these different phrases. There are a couple of others as well, but those seem to be the four most popular that are sort of hanging out there right now. So I'll just say I wanted to get a quick sentence for each rather than me trying to go into a long dissertation about the meaning. So multicultural is said to be the presence of multiple distinct cultural and ethnic groups within a society or an organization, and it emphasizes the coexistence of those diverse cultures. Intercultural describes the interaction between people from different cultural backgrounds, but intercultural emphasizes the exchange and the mutual influence between cultures, and it's promoting the understanding and collaboration rather than, change, trying to get people to change to one thing or another. Transcultural is focusing on the blending and merging of cultures to create a new hybrid cultural form or identity, which, again, like that goes beyond multicultural or intercultural and in trying to create one culture. And then cross-cultural involves comparing and contrasting different cultures with the intent to understand the cultural differences and the similarities. And so I think that they're all being mixed and matched when people use them. But I also think it's important that we realize that there are these other words out there that have taken on new meanings, and we, in building bridges, want to be careful that we're using the word that really represents the meaning that we have in that moment, because I feel like it's now going to start or cause even more miscommunication and perhaps more division. And so, does anybody have any thoughts about how now having these four words that slightly mean different things and have different purposes could either help or hurt building of bridges?
Thanks, first of all, for explaining all the different definitions, because, that's new to me as well. I'm not really sure how it's going to, if it hurts or helps, because people are like, I'll give an example. My husband, his grandfather immigrated to the Fiji Islands. The Fiji Islands are off of Australia near New Zealand, so the Pacific Islands. But they still maintained their Indian heritage. His father was born there. So my husband was also born there. So they took on a lot of the Fijian culture, but they maintained their Indian culture. And now that they're living in the United States, they've also taken on being Americans. So I think that's going to happen as people move from different countries or travel. Like if you are, an American living, and then now you've gone to Spain and you've lived there for 5 years, at what point are you still an American? And so my cousin is the same thing. My mom's sister's daughter, born and raised in India, came to America when she was 10, married a Caucasian of German descent. They are now going to move to Spain and live there permanently. So you kind of take in from here to there to there. So I'm hoping that's the way it goes, that people just be more appreciative of differences and uniquenesses and enjoy them, and then go on from there.
Yes, with these four concepts is really a word for me to find a way to build bridges, especially because when you open your mind to know that there are different people from different backgrounds in the cultural part, one of the most important things that we can rescue from this is the coexistence as a multicultural, and they find a way to collaborate each other to grow, because for me, I think 1 + 1 is 3. At the end, we can do something bigger. We can add in our skills or our background to do something different. And another thing that we can do is especially respect each other. And one of the basics, the fundamentals for the concept in the intercultural is the respect to all the cultures we have. And how can we go beyond with the transcultural? How can we go beyond with all the skills we have, with all the background we have in the culture? And if we can and the cross culture when we are doing something for know how can find a way to stay with one people from one country or other. That is one of the ways we can integrate everything. But at the end, the respect, the empathetic, and the purpose to create something bigger from the everything we have. That is the basic thing we can do for integrate these concepts and at the end do something better.
I love the do something better. I love the idea of sharing who we are, who we be, and what we bring to the table culturally and not culturally, outside of our culture. We're people. And what does that look like when we all are acting as a collective, as opposed to there being so much division? And so that brings me to really being interested to hear how does connecting fit into this? One of the principles InterCultural Voices has 3 principles. Our entire mission is about cultural equity, and within that there's 3 principles or pillars. And the first one is access. And when I think of access, I am thinking about connections. I'm thinking about building bridges between people that need to know each other and building a collective so that we're stronger together and we can move further faster. When you think of connections and us acting as a collective, a multicultural collective, what does that mean? What does that sound like? How do we do that?
Yeah, I think it comes out to being present in spaces and places where that connection can happen. And that's the access, you're right. That's what, I joined this Arts and Culture Advisory Board with the city a few years back, and it was not knowing you. I would tell people, it's like if you're at a picnic and someone's handing out apple pie, it's not like I want a piece of your pie. I just want to know where the table is. I want to know where they're, slicing it up. And so I can also get in line and get some of this. So I think that's with spreading the culture. It kind of the same analogy I use when it comes to, getting grant money or funding for various projects, that it's the knowing where to go. And I think that's when you said access. That's a combination of the access to the information, the access to the people, and access to the knowledge or the information. And that's it.
In this point, one of the things that we can do to build on these bridges is collaborate. The collaboration is really important because sometimes we are, and even yesterday, we are talking about the competition and the difference between competition and collaboration. And I was talking with a couple of friends, and we are talking about the things, and the competition is a really focusing other people. When we collaborate, we are focusing how can we serve to others, and we can create a multicultural collective if we can collaborate each other. And if we are doing this, we can build bridges. We can access to more resources, because my resources maybe can serve others. Maybe their resources can serve to my community. And the connections are really important. And all the time I'm talking when I have the opportunity to do in conferences, I say you can use your business or your place to grow people. Not use the people to grow your business, because we are working in a different ways. So if we can open this access for other people, if we can collaborate between each other, and if we have the clear purpose that this is an option to do something bigger every time, they are the best option to collaborate and to grow as a community with the differences we have, with the different backgrounds we have, but at the end with the opportunity to find the best skills in others and the best skills in me to play different roles in the different scenarios, because we have the option to do something different everywhere we are going. We can make the difference if we are focused and create from the our essence, not from the what can I get from others, is how can I serve others. And from there, this is a really great option to connect and to give to other people access to the maybe the things I have and maybe the things I can serve. And from there, we can serve others at the end of the time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love meeting new people, but I love even more doing events like this where not only do I have the opportunity to introduce speakers to one another, because most of the time when I do an event like this, I intentionally have speakers who don't know each other so that they have that opportunity to connect. But then it also gives people an opportunity to meet new people, connect with others by attending. And so, again, if there's a speaker on the stage that resonates with you, click on their face, send a connection request, send them a message. If you have a story, if you would love to share a particular topic, maybe it's your expertise and you want to be on stage, send me an inbox. Let me know, what does that look like for you? We will be here every week talking about all kinds of different things on Intercultural Voices. Some will be actual trainings, not conversations. Some will not be specifically about being multicultural. It may be about what is the best strategies that are working now for growing a business. And so be sure to like our page, Intercultural Voices, ring the notification bell on the page so you don't miss future events. This is another invitation in case anyone has a question or they would like to come on stage to talk with us. If not, feel free to put your questions or your comments or your thoughts in the comments on the event page. We will be going to the event page in a few minutes for a couple of reasons. One, because we cannot see the comments while we are actually on stage. So we will go to the comments to see if there are comments. We will engage with those. We will answer those. And our speakers will leave their contact information or how you can stay connected with them in the event comments. So be sure to join us there for a little after party. We'll be there until 12:30, provided that there are people there who are engaging in the comments. And so I am going to segue to my next question, maybe the last question, it depends. I would like to talk about, and I think that this is a great question for us because we all have been involved or are highly involved with young people. And young people in the next generation means a lot to us for various reasons. And so my question for you is, how do you see us being able to, as a collective, as individuals, how can we prepare the next generation for multicultural or cultural advancement?
that goes back to the same thing like we were talking earlier. You got to know your roots, know who you are, where you came from, where you started, and then also in the same sense, where do you want to go, and how am I going to get there, and what am I going to need to get there, and hopefully you find the right people. I talk about this like it's not the end that's important, it's the journey and who's on this journey with you. And so I try to, make sure my kids, friends, how we approach differences is in a good light, or understanding, or being open or aware or respectful of other people's backgrounds, or celebrating their differences and backgrounds with them. And I think that's what we need to give our kids, is more experiences. And I'm glad like the schools do it, and there's opportunities for people to join each other's festivals, but sometimes there's not knowing, and I think that's where we also have to be part of that conversation, like the what can we do. I've gotten asked so many times, I'm going to an Indian wedding, is it okay if I wear Indian clothes? Is it appropriation? I had to look up that word. I'm like, I'm not sure what that means. I said, no, if you're wearing it appropriately, it's not appropriation, that you are dressing up. And I think if you're attending someone's wedding event in Indian clothes, they'd be thrilled to see you dressed up that way. But if you're disrespecting it or wearing it the wrong way, or kind of, in a negative way, then that's not right. But I think we need to arm our kids, I guess, in one way, with experiences and opportunities and different ways of looking at things and different perspectives. So that way, when they are out in the world on their own, they're like, oh yeah, I've seen that. I went to the Polish festival. I know what goes on, or I've seen that because I've tried that food, or I've tried that, I did that, the henna tattoo at the Indian festival. So I know what that's all about. And that's it.
The best way to prepare our next generation for the multicultural, or the interchange we have, I think now is easier, because there are, especially here, there are people who's coming from different countries or in different cultures, so it's easier to do something with that part. But the first thing is being an example, because the words are easy to say, but the actions speak louder the words. So that is one of the things that is really important to prepare our next generation, and the generation now, because if we are leading by the example, we can speak with posture and say, okay, I'm doing this, and sometimes we even don't need to talk, because our generation is they are watching through their eyes what we are doing with the events, or with the different actions we are doing for others. And if we can create spaces for them to share with other people, once again, without tax, because the cloth for some people is really important. The hair for some people in my country is really important, especially for there are a specific culture that is around the world, this show off their roots. So that is one of the things that is important for me, to create these spaces to prepare our next generation, and feel grateful because we have the option to share with other people from other cultures, and be so respectful for all this difference, because that is this difference is the its goal for growth. It's this goal for see the world in the different through different eyes. So for me, it's really important to share with different people without tax, and at the end, as I said in the beginning, we are just one world, and from there we can do something. We can do everything.
Yeah, well said. We are one world.
Yes.
I like that. One world. That's perfect. That's perfect. So here is a really great question. I know I said I had one more, but now I have one more.
Okay.
I love it.
So, what would you tell your 12-year-old self if you could go back based on what you know now? What would you tell your 12-year-old self?
Gosh, I wish I could go back because I was the most timid, shy, scared person because we got picked on, we got bullied, we got snowballed walking home, we got egged, we got told go back to your country, and we're like, we're from America. I don't know, I didn't know how to say it. We didn't know what to do, and I wish I had the words. And I know my parents tried as much as they possibly could, but we were even scared to tell them because we didn't know what to tell them, and we didn't want to make a bigger deal out of it. And we were just like trying to, lay low and keep out of the way. And I wish I could, if I had that information and tell myself it's going to get better and just keep, doing what you're doing. I think we just kept doing what we were doing, but I didn't get involved as much in school and like sports or a lot of activities because I was always afraid someone was going to make fun of us or say something. So it was just easier just to, go to school, do your homework, get your grades, and you had a couple of friends, but I would have loved to have been more involved in leadership roles in high school and middle school if I had that confidence. But a lot of it was kind of pushed away because of the bullying that happened.
That's great. And I'm just thinking about my 12 years. It's like in my 12s, I told me, don't be shy to show how I am, because sometimes I was in my 12th, maybe I thinking I'm wrong if I'm thinking that it's so big, and sometimes I stopped to do a couple of things because maybe I'm thinking that is not the time to do it. And if I go back, I said, okay, just do it and don't be shy, show off, because that is the things that why we are what I am different. Maybe in that days, and I'm trying to fit in the things that is maybe the regular things, but when and now I know that when we are thinking out of the box, and that is a really common quote maybe, but it's real. When we give us if we are given us the opportunity to think out of the box and be confident about we are thinking in the correct way, especially because at that age we have no blocks, we have less information, and we can do everything. So even when I saw now the kids that they are doing they are entrepreneurs, they are creating something different, and they have the option to open their minds and do something different. So definitely I just said to my 12 years old, just do it and don't be shy. You are correct. You're in the good way.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I love that. That was just a perfect way to sort of bring this event down to a close. And so I would love for first to remind everyone that we are going to go to the comments. So if you have comments there, we will reply, we will respond. Our speakers will leave their contact information there. And how I would like to close out is to just hear from each speaker. What are your final words? How would you like to leave us better than when we arrived at this event today?
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank you, Lynette and Gabby. Nice to meet you. Thank you to the audience for being here. I like you said, these conversations need to happen, and this is us coming to this point and us being able to share, and hopefully we can share more, like you said, with the opportunity to put it on a podcast or somewhere else. But that's where it's got to be. It's a continuous thing. It's an evolving thing. It's always there's new challenges, new opportunities, and every time we think we've gotten a little bit better, especially in the United States, I feel like we're taking a half a step back or 2 steps back sometimes. And so it's almost like a push up the hill that we're all kind of working on together. But they start from these conversations. So thank you for, inviting me, and thank you for putting this together and getting us on together to do this, because this is how it's going to be all better, is from these small, little steps that we're going to take to make it better. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Holly. For me, it's a pleasure. It's an honor to be here. I feel so humble and grateful to be here. Thank you, Dr. Lynette. Thank you to the audience too. And that was so a space for me. Really, I have no words to express how I feel, because it's my first conference, and for a long time I'm doing this in English, so it's good. And even I'm teaching classes sometimes, but it's different when you are talking about something really meaningful. So it was a great experience for me, and I really, really appreciate that. And listen about the experiences of Dr. Lynette and the Shafali, it was amazing for me. I grew a lot, and thank you to the audience for being here today. And the words I can say is just today is the first of the rest of our lives, and we have the opportunity to make the difference. And as I mentioned it during the conference, we have the opportunity, as Baden Powell says, to leave this world better than I found it. So just remember that when we know who we are, we can do everything. So just be you, and just move forward and make the difference, because we have this world to create amazing things. And this space, it was an amazing space to keep and building bridges. So thank you so much.
And I second both things. I want to thank everyone for spending this time with us, because you could have chosen to be somewhere else. I am grateful to have this honor to meet new speakers. I'm grateful to have this opportunity to introduce the world to amazing people. Please remember to hold space for Monique, our other intended speaker who had an emergency. We're absolutely sending love and light to her. We are going to the comments right now so that we can make sure to respond to any comments that may have been left during the event. We do this event every single Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am Dr. Lynette Monte, and we at InterCultural Voices invite you to be part of this collaboration, be part of this community, connect with people on our page, get to know someone there that you've not met, because that's how these bridges begin, and that's how these bridges will continue.